This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Will Jewelry and Loan. When you need cash and you need it fast, check out Will Jewelry and Loan. Come on in with your jewelry, firearms, electronics, tools, lawn equipment, dirt bikes, side-by-sides, and even four-wheelers. They will beat any competitor's loan amount, and that's a fact. Will Jewelry and Loan guarantees faster and more cash for your loan than any other company in the area. They have your cash you need fast. Check them out today on their Facebook page or give them a call at 304-768-5101. Stop in and talk with them at 5523 McCorkle Avenue, Southwest, South Charleston, West Virginia. Will Jewelry and Loan, 304-768-5101. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls. Tonight, I got special guest Ike Eulitt from Ike's Outdoors, and I've got Dan Hall, co-host, here with me. So, how you guys doing this evening?
Doing real well, Michael. How you doing, Ike?
I'm doing great.
Nice.
Good.
So, we just want to go ahead and start off with Ike's Outdoors and the history behind it. You know, I've watched a lot of your YouTube videos there. We met each other. We haven't personally met each other, but we've been friends there through the social media world for probably, I would say, at least 8 years or so. And, you know, like I was saying, your product reviews and stuff, you've done everything from boots to arrow rests to arrows to bows and clothing and all kinds of stuff. So just fill us in on the history behind Ike's Outdoors and kind of how that got started.
Well, we got started in around 2009, 2010, and it actually got started because at the time I was running an archery shop. So we started with YouTube. Social media was pretty new at the time and didn't know much about it, but we started YouTube basically as a way to show off the stuff that we had in the shop. So I started doing reviews on things in the shop, and it just kind of blew up from there. And it actually really kind of took off because of Darren Brown, who at the time was with Hips Targets. He saw me doing a review on one of his targets, and I had shot the tar out of that thing and talked about how durable it was and how good a value it was. And Darren reached out to me and wanted to work with me on doing more product reviews on other things. And, you know, then I started to realize that aside from doing stuff just for the shop, we could really grow this social media page. And at the time, with YouTube being really new, it just kind of took off on its own from there.
Awesome. So, yeah, I know your Facebook page is still up around 40-some thousand followers on it. So you still got a good following there on your Facebook page.
Yeah, the Facebook page is doing well. And, you know, YouTube, I kind of got overshadowed there with so many other celebrities and big shooters and stuff getting on there. But the social media pages, as far as Facebook, I think I've got 45,000 followers on there, and 38 or so on YouTube. So the Facebook really took off actually by accident as well, because my son killed a really nice buck and we got it on video, and he was just so excited. And when that video, it kind of went viral as far as hunting videos go, and our Facebook really kind of exploded with that one video.
So you guys do a lot of product reviews. What in your opinion, I know everybody has their own opinion, you know, what some of the better products, the best products that you felt like you've reviewed, be it boots, archery equipment, anything like that? What's some of your products that you would recommend to a person?
You know, over the years doing all the testing and stuff, I got a chance to look at everything, and it made it great. And I really learned what I liked and what I didn't like. And I really learned what I liked to set up and what I didn't like as far as putting stuff on bows. You know, lacrosse and danner boots were outstanding. I've still got some of those. The ones that I reviewed, I still got all three of those pairs. The Hips targets that Darren Brown was making were amazing. I think they're going by power stop targets. Really, you know, the go-to things for me are I still use the I'm trying to think of the name of it, and it's slipping my mind. The React. I use the React sights on my bows, and I still use the Code Red Ripcord arrow rests. And if I'm going to go set up a bow today for myself or for anybody else, those are the two things that I'm going to put on it, because those are really my go-to of all the sights and rests that I tried. Those are the ones that I found that were the easiest to set up, and that were just the most durable, and just they last forever and they're rock solid.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So, what's the, like, I mean, review and stuff, is it more along the bow hunting side of things, rifle hunting side, or just a mix of all of it? What's your, in your experience, what's the most that you really look into? I mean, there's not a whole lot you can review for rifle or firearm hunting. We'll call it firearm hunting because other states don't allow rifles. But so I would assume you would review more for the archery industry.
Yeah, I'd say we were 95% archery. We did a few things that were just general hunting related, as far as like trail cameras and things like that. But my specialty and my background came through archery. I started working in an archery shop. I started archery hunting when I was 12, and my dad would not let me deer hunt with a rifle until I was probably 18. But I started working in an archery shop when I was 16, started my own archery shop when I was 26, 27, so that's my background, and that's what I really lean into that because, even now I'm working on becoming a gunsmith. I don't feel like I have the knowledge to go on YouTube and start putting out rifle videos and gun videos and stuff like that. So I saw too many people out there that were putting out videos, and when it came to archery, I knew they didn't know what they were talking about. So I try to avoid that as much as possible, just to give good information, whether it be a how-to video or product review video, just to make sure that I was giving a good, honest information and really knew what I was talking about. So I stuck with archery just because of that.
So you said most of your stuff there is 95% archery. Are you more of a compound archery guy, or do you like recurves? I think I remember some recurve stuff on your reviews. I'm not for sure though.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of both. I'm primarily a compound bow. I love recurves, love traditional bows, but I have a lack of skill that doesn't allow me to use those. So I primarily stick with compound bows. When I was young, I actually started out with a recurve and killed my first three or four deer with it. And then, every 10 years, I'll get a wild hair and go pick up a recurve and get good enough with it to go hunt. But I tend to stick toward the compound bows. I really like the technology that's there. Tuning them, getting the cams in the right position and getting everything set up and tuned out is kind of my thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So with the compound bows, do you have a preference? I know there's all kinds of people out there. I'm a Matthews guy. I'm a Bowtech guy. I'm a PSE guy, Bear guy. I mean, do you have a preference on what you shoot, or is it just
he used to like shooting the Genesis? I'm not sure. I think that's what it was.
I shoot just about anything out there. There are definitely some bows that I don't like, but the list of bows that I do like is just about as long as my arm. If it came down to my favorite bow out there, it would probably be a really old school high country. I say old school. It's not old school for a lot of guys, but you guys remember the Speed Pros and the Iron Mace from 2009, 2010?
Sure.
Absolute favorite bow. But I've always loved the Bowtechs, the PSEs, the primes. I really shoot the primes well. Bears bows. I've always shot Bears bows well as well. But the one bow that I just never really could get comfortable with and never really cared for was a Matthews. Now, I haven't shot him in a long time, but I just never could get comfortable with a Matthews bow for some reason.
Right. Have you had the chance to try out these, the newer elite bows or anything like that?
No, I haven't really shot a new bow in a couple years. I kind of got into the bows that I like, and then technology on these new bows kind of really slowed down a little bit and it stopped changing like it was back in 2010 to 2015. They kind of became mundane and kind of a carbon copy of the ones before, so I kind of stopped going out and shooting and buying the newest, latest, greatest thing.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, there's really only so much they can do with bows, and they've come to, like you said, I think they've come to a head where they we'll tweak this a little bit and we'll get another 10 feet per second. But for the most part, like you said, I think they're major manufacturers at least are on a level playing field now.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And that was a great thing about shooting and starting when I did. I started shooting, back when they were vertical limb bows, and Matthews came out with their parallel limb bows, and that really changed the game. And then we got the 2-track cams and these binary cam systems and stuff like that. And you really, for about 20 years there, you really saw every year was just a big leap on speed and technology, and they really got quiet. And then, 2015, 2018, somewhere in that area, it just kind of all started falling flat, and the technology just started taking minor little increments in improvements, and not really the big leaps like they were getting before.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I would agree with that. It's people are like, oh, Matthews this, Matthews that, Bowtech this, Bowtech that, PSE, Elite, and like you were saying, I feel they're almost all on a level playing field now. There's only so much you can do until the next newest technology comes out. Then when that comes out, they'll hit a new market.
Yeah, one of the things that I was going to mention is I said Genesis, but I was thinking of the wrong bow. I'm thinking of a bow that you reviewed back in the day, and it was one that you really liked, but it was like an alien something, or it was like it had a neon green color to it, and it was black. I just can't put my finger on which one it was. I'm wanting to think Obsession or something, or maybe it was I can't remember.
Just going by color combinations, it's hard to remember because I had a lot of black bows. But when you said Genesis, that made me think of the New Breed. I believe New Breed had a Genesis out at one point.
That's exactly what it was. Yep.
And that was the New Breed bows. Man, I loved those New Breed bows. And Kyle, the owner of the company, was a great guy to deal with. So I shot those New Breed Genesis and several of those bows for several years, and being the kind of guy that goes out and buys a new flagship bow every year, I spent probably as much time shooting a New Breed as I did any other bow out there. Probably shot a little the Bowtechs a little bit more, but I spent a lot of time shooting the New Breeds back in the day.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I'm glad you remembered. So Dan talking about everybody being on a level playing field. Matthews has got that new bow out, that Phase 4, and I've been hearing a lot of stuff about it. I wish that you were still into the reviews things, because I would love to see the review on this one. But they're saying that this thing is shooting 370 feet per second. So that's another thing that these bow companies are going to have to compete with. With all these people coming in with crossbows, they've got some competition to keep the traditional archery alive.
Yeah, for sure. The crossbow market's getting bigger and bigger, and I get more questions now about crossbows than I do compound bows. My son, he's 15 now, and he's killed several deer, and they've all been with crossbows. Back when I started, you had to pull a 45-pound bow to be able to hunt.
Yep.
And we were shooting recurves, or we were shooting bows with 55% let off, and that was pretty tough for a 12, 13-year-old kid. So, having crossbows is a nice entry to archery hunting, but I think we're seeing less and less people convert over to compound bows from that.
Yeah,
I think they're sticking with it because of the ease of use and the effectiveness of it. I mean, you can hit a deer with that at an odd angle, and you can get through bone with it to some extent. And I think people are having more success and finding it just a lot easier to do, so that's why they're sticking with that. And the bow companies out there are, like you said, they're going to have to respond. So they're going to respond by making them faster, making them more tunable, making them easier to shoot. And I think we're out of the days. There used to be the days when you saw a bow that was shooting 350, 360, I could tell right away that bow was not shootable because it probably had a 5-inch brace sight on it. And for those that don't know, the brace sight, the shorter it is, the harder it is to shoot. So I think we're getting now to where we're seeing bows with 6.5, 6-inch brace sights that are going to get faster and faster to compete with that market of the crossbow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Dan.
No, no, I was saying absolutely. It's a problem now to compete with the crossbow because they've come so far with the crossbow that your traditional bow hunters
Yeah.
are losing out. I mean, you can take a crossbow, man, and you can literally shoot 100 yards, no problem. I've practiced at 100 yards. I've shot 80, 100, 120 just to practice with it for if that chance arises that I get to go out west or anything like that to hunt with my bow. Crossbows, you don't really need that practice point, so they've got to do something in the compound industry to compete
I
with
think
that.
that's one of the things that they're trying to do, really. I mean, they're trying to get people more interested into the compound traditional archery again with the speed. Speed used to be a big thing back in the day when you were shooting compound, I mean, you was worrying about your arrows and, the different sizes and things like that to raise the speed and doing everything you can to get it to go faster. So,
There's probably some guys out there listening, and maybe you too as well, that remember back in the day when we would put overdraws on bows.
Yep.
I remember setting up a PSE with an overdraw that I was shooting a 30-inch draw, which was way too long for me, and I was shooting a 25-inch arrow off of that. Just trying to get that thing up to 260, 270, So.
Isn't that crazy, the speeds from there to now? I mean, it's just nuts, the way things have changed.
Yeah. I remember the first bow, and it was Matthews. It was the first bow that I ever saw that would do 300 feet per second. And at that time, 300 feet per second was just absolutely amazing. Because most of those bows back in that day, the old vertical limb bows, man, if you could get the IBO speed would say they would do 280 and stuff like that. And I remember the old, I can't remember the name of them. They were shot by Miles Keller, XIs. The XIs back in the 90s were like the fastest bow on the market, and they were claiming to do like 280 or 290. And in the real world, you got them to do about 250 or 260 maybe.
Yeah, you had to have the perfect setup to get that, and you had to have your arrow weights and everything just right to get that. And the average person wasn't getting that because they wasn't sitting down and tuning their bow to perfection.
Yeah, and those cams back in that day were so radical. I've tuned a bunch of those in my life, and they're so hard to get timed, and they're so hard to stay in time. And like you said, you had to be shooting 70 pounds. You had to be shooting the lightest arrow that you could shoot, and you had to be shooting a 30-inch draw length. And that's why, like I said about my setup on that PSE, the reason I was shooting a 30-inch draw length was because I was trying to get 20 extra feet per second out of it, and it ended up really hurting my form and hurting my accuracy. But at the time, we were just concerned with speed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, another thing we like to do on every episode of our podcasts here, we like to do our salute to valor. Granted, I've got more questions. I know Michael's got more questions, so we'll get into that. But definitely want to hit on our salute to valor tonight. And tonight we want to salute Heath Goins out of Charleston, West Virginia. He was in the Air Force for 10 years, from 2010 to 2020. He had the rank of an E6, and he was stationed in Lakenheath Air Force Base in the UK, as well as, which I am gonna butcher this, so bear with me. It's in Germany, Spangladalem Air Base in Germany, Elgin Air Force Base in Florida, and Lakeland Air Force Base out of Texas. He did 2 tours, one in Jordan and one in Qatar. He received the Commendation Medal, Achievement Medal 4 times, Small Arms Expert Marksmanship Medal, National Defense Service Global War on Terrorism Medal, Expeditionary Medal, Global War on Terrorism Medal, Air Force Expeditionary Service Medal for Special Combat Operations Support. He was discharged in 2020, and we just want to thank him for his service and everything that he has done for our country. It's a great service. Like I've said before, I've been in it. I've done it. It's something you sign up for that you don't know. You sign a blank check. You don't know what's going to happen. That you could cash that blank check in, or you could bring it home and you can return. This man has got to return and explain his life to people. It's great. we appreciate his service. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Heath, for your service, sir. We appreciate it. And, you know what? One of the things I was going to say is that Lackland Air Force Base, you know, that's a pretty large Air Force base that he's currently working at, isn't it, Dan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is. The military standpoint, what comes out of that, you know, they do a lot to support the presidency. You know, it's one of the easiest ones to fly out of. So yeah, definitely it's a big unit. You know, they do a lot.
And that's usually probably why it's the easiest to fly out of, because the bigger the airport, obviously the easier it is, and they have the bigger planes coming into these places. I know they always talk about, like, when they land Air Force One here in Charleston, that it's like one of the hardest places to land that big old 757 or 787, whatever it is.
Sure. No, Charleston is talking to people in the industry, pilots, anything like that, man, Charleston is a hard airport to navigate.
Yeah.
It's on top of a mountain, and you literally have to get stopped before you run off the other end of the mountain. It's pretty interesting.
Yep. Well, thank you, Heath, for your service, and we appreciate you, sir. You know, it's because of you sacrificing and doing the things that you do that we get to do the things that we're doing right now and enjoy our freedom here in America. So, all right, back to Ike's Outdoors. So we were talking about bows. You were talking about one of the fastest bows, one of the first bows to reach 300. And as he was going over that salute to Valor there, I was looking back on a couple of things. Back in 1996, I think it was the Martin Fury, and it was like 300 and some plus by IBO standards. So do you remember what Matthews that was that came out 300 plus?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact model. I remember a guy bringing it into the shop, and it was the Solo Cam, I believe, but and it may not have been hitting 300, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the first bows I ever saw that was pushing 300 on that. I wish I could remember the model, but all I remember about it was a Solo Cam.
It wasn't the MQ2, was it?
You know, it might have been.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Literally have.
That's what's coming to my mind.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you Matthews bow one model from the next most of the time.
Sure.
So.
You know, talking about reviews, you guys, Ike Outdoors, don't really do the whole lot of reviews anymore, correct? You're just, where are you going nowadays with the whole thing?
You know, I don't know. A couple things happened in the past 2 years that have kind of deterred me from doing the YouTube videos. Is the biggest thing was, you know, when we first took off in 2009, 2010, we were one of the only ones doing archery. And I say we because it was mostly me and my wife, you know. We were one of the only ones doing archery, but then other people started seeing the advantage of these social medias, and you started seeing big name companies putting out their own stuff, and you started seeing guys, big name shooters and big name hunters putting their videos up, and it really, really drowned out the small guy like myself. You know, I bought every bow that I ever reviewed, and bought 90% of the products that I reviewed. There was a few that I had some deals with, but I was using the money from YouTube that I was making off of ads to buy those things, and it really started dwindling pretty fast. So that really dried up the ability to go buy bows. And once we stopped buying bows, then the viewership really kind of went down from there. And then the other thing that happened that really put a stop to it, period, was my wife was diagnosed with heart failure. You know, she's 38 years old, and she got really, really close to dying. And she's 38 years old, and she was on the heart transplant list at one point, but the doctors in Kansas City at St. Luke, you know, did a miracle, and they saved her, and they had to put in a defibrillator and a pacemaker, you know. And again, She's only 38 years old, so that was, you know, 6 months, 8 months of hell, and now I'm really focused. I've spent my whole life focused on Ike's Outdoors and me and hunting and things like that. And coming as close as I did to losing her, I've really been focused more on her, you know. Last year when she was sick, I didn't want to leave the house. Every time I would go hunting, I would be sitting in the tree stand being worried about her. So I would go hunt, get there for stay an hour and come home and pass up on deer because I didn't want to spend the time out there, field dressing them and dragging them out and things like that. So there may come a day when I start back up again and start getting devoted to it again. But right now I just don't have the drive or the desire to really get into it like I need to.
No, then, that's completely understandable. Family always comes first. You see these people out there that push on, and you don't see the behind the scenes, but you speaking of the behind the scenes things, man, that's impressive. You put that on the back burner, even though it was something that was big and something that was going great for you. Your wife had an issue, and you stopped that to take care of your wife, man. That's what it's all about.
I appreciate that, and I couldn't agree more. Family's everything to me, and some of the greatest memories that I have growing up are hunting with friends and family, and it's one of the things I loved about it. What really made me love it was bonding with my dad, my brother, my cousins, and really getting out in the woods and enjoying it with them, and then being able to pass it on to my son has been amazing. And even my wife has gotten into bow hunting. It's funny, when we had the shop, she got knowledgeable enough when people would come in and ask for a certain bow. She could tell them the IBO, the draw weight, all the specs on these certain bows. So she got pretty darn knowledgeable as well when it came to bow hunting. But you're right. There comes a time when you have to give up certain things and put family first. And that just was the unfortunate, thing of her getting sick. You drop everything and you take care of family first.
Yep. That's awesome, man. I give you full credit for that, brother. You're an awesome man for doing that. That's for sure. It's perfect time for us to come in and do our scripture, our verse of the day that we call it. And I believe that Dave has that ready to go.
Yep, we got it ready to go, Mike. Tonight's verse of the day is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 8. And I'm actually going to read it out of the Amplified. It says, "Love never fails, never fades out or becomes obsolete or comes to an end." And, just real simple verse of the day tonight. Love never fails. And it's the love of God. It's, it's not selfish. It's a giving love. It's a forgiving love. It's a love that doesn't live for itself. It lives for others. But it never fails. It'll never stop. Anyway, I think that's just an amazing thing to think about and meditate on.
All right, Dave, thank you for that scripture of the day there. That plays right in with what we was just talking about with Ike's wife and things getting sick. This plays perfectly into him and the amount of love that he had for his wife. I mean, he gave up his passion doing the things that he loved to do to be able to take care of her. And that's one of the first parts of the scripture. Love never stops loving. And then at the end of it, it talks about love remains long after words of knowledge are forgotten, So I give you the upper hand on that one, brother. You the man.
Oh, absolutely. The things we do for the ones we love, it's awesome. So, Ike, we've been talking about your reviews of products. Let's get into a little bit of how your hunting season went and fishing season. I mean, I know you don't review just hunting stuff. You do stuff with fishing as well, right?
Yeah, I do a little bit of stuff with fishing, and again, it comes back to not having the knowledge to really do extensive amounts of reviews on that. I am pretty green when it comes to fishing as well. I never really cared for it until 5 years ago, and then I had a coworker that really got me into it and taught me how to fish, which was something that no one had ever done before. So once I actually learned how to catch some fish, man, I really got into it and really, now I can't wait for spring and summer to get out there and catch some spawning bass. But fishing season went great this year. I hit a lot of spots and caught several good days of being out and catching, 10, 12 bass and catching some pretty decent sized ones. Hunting season's been slow, back to my wife. I gave up my lease to make sure we could pay medical bills. So did not deer hunt this year. But we're going to do some public land hunting. You know, we're going to do some small game hunting. My son is really getting into small game, pheasant, quail, if we can find them. Rabbits. We took him on his first dove hunt this year, and he was just thrilled to kill his first dove. So, and cooked that up for him, and he was absolutely elated with the way it tasted. So yeah, we may end up doing a lot of small game hunting and stuff like that primarily this year. Hopefully next year we'll roll back into finding a spot to hunt and get back into deer hunting again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you know, he's talking about small game, pheasant and dove. You know, that can be some of the funnest hunts you could ever take a kid on. You know, that
definitely.
it's something you don't expect. There's a lot of unexpecteds with the small game hunts. You know, be it birds, be it rabbits, be it squirrels. You know, I've took my daughter squirrel hunting many times, and I'm like, oh, we'll just sit here, and I've sat here during bow season, and I've seen 200 squirrels. We're going to get you a squirrel. You don't see a single squirrel. You know, it's like
Every time.
they just disappear.
Every time.
Yep.
when you're hunting them. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, man, I've seen 200 squirrels bow hunting, but you sit there with your kid or somebody else or anybody, you know, and it's like, okay, we've been here for 2 hours. In 10 minutes, I've seen 200 squirrels. Where are they at now? You know?
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
You're 100% right on that. And I grew up with woods right behind our house and having the ability to go squirrel hunting whenever we wanted to. So we always did a lot of small game hunting. And back then, it was really cool because you could take the tail off of one and send it to MEPS. And they'd send you, I think if you sent in 5, they would send you a fishing lure back. And I've still got some of those fishing lures. And every time I pull them out, I have to tell a story. Oh, I got this from killing squirrels when I was a teenager, man. You know. But yeah, small game hunting. I loved rabbit hunting and loved quail hunting. And a few years ago, I went on my first pheasant hunt and just absolutely had a blast doing that. Missed a lot, but I was able to successfully kill a few. So absolutely had fun doing that. And I think it's a great way to get kids started, you know, teaching proper gun safety and proper way to handle a weapon out in the field. And it's not sitting in a tree stand being bored. You know, you can be loud, you can walk around, you're going to usually see a lot of game, you know, and you get to do a lot of shooting. So I think it's a great way to get kids out into it. And, you know, even a guy my age that's been hunting for 30 years, I still have an absolute blast every time we go.
No, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, talking about the maps, you know, they still, to this day, they're still doing that. You know, you can still kill a squirrel and send its tail in, and it's a little bit different than I think what you're used to and what I'm used to. Back then, you know, you send 3 or 4 squirrel tails and you'd get one. I think now you got to send like literally 20 or 30 of them and to get anything. But
jeez,
it's the same concept. You know, it's awesome to be able to do that. You know, we don't have the pheasants where we're at, so we don't get that opportunity for that bird. But man, pheasant hunting is something different. It is fun.
Yeah, when we went on our hunt, I like, we don't have pheasant around here that are wild, and I don't normally do guided hunts or anything like that, but I really wanted to go on a pheasant hunt and didn't have the time to go out to Kansas or South Dakota and do it. So I got with one of the local guided hunts around here called Flying Feathers, and we went out, and it took me a while to learn how to shoot one, you know, because it's a whole lot different than shooting. It's similar to shooting a quail, but it's a little bit different at the same time. So it took me a while to get the trick of it down. But I tell you what I loved most about it was watching the dogs. I mean, watching those dogs run those trails and run that brush was absolutely amazing. And the guy had 2 sets of dogs, an older set and a younger set. And the older set was nice and slow and methodical about the way they cleared a field. and the younger set was just gangbusters. I mean, you went as fast as you could go to keep up with them. So it was a good mix of watching a really good pair and watching a young, exciting pair as well. So I had a blast, and I hope to go back here pretty soon and shoot some more pheasants with them.
Yeah, them young ones that don't have the experience, man, they just go wild, and they're searching and nosing everything. I mean, it's crazy. So we were talking earlier there. Your hobby that you're getting into now is guns and gunsmithing and things like that. I mean, the rise on, gun sales in the U.S. in the past, really 4 or 5 years has been phenomenal, and that's got to be a good business to be in right now. What's some of the primary things that you've been seeing come in?
Well, I specialize mostly in repair and restoration. And in my area of the woods, I see a lot of deer rifles and a lot of revolvers and things like that. I have yet to work on an AR-15, which surprises me. I really figured I would see a lot of ARs, but I primarily see deer rifles, shotguns, revolvers, occasionally the semi-automatic. But what I mostly do is it's simple repairs. I haven't got into the equipment yet of doing rebarreling or, changing to a larger caliber or things like that. So, but I really enjoy the restoration process of it, and I think that's what I've done the most of. One guy brought me, he had probably 5 guns that he had left in a storage container in one of those self-serve storage areas, and they'd fallen over and they'd hit the ground and they'd been there for 5 years. So they were just rust buckets, and that was fun to re-blue, redo the wood, fix everything that was wrong with them, get everything freed up. So that's a majority of what I do when it comes to the gunsmithing. And I'm a novice. There's still a world of knowledge out there that I will never get when it comes to gunsmithing at this point. But it is absolutely fun to learn, and I learned it's a great way to expand my gun collection. Because once I started doing it, man, my gun collection has tripled.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to pick up cheap guns that are broken and fix them up. I bought an M1 carbine that was broke for $300, and it turned out all it was the buffer springs on it need to be realigned. So, I mean, you find as a gunsmith,
you want your money back?
As a gunsmith, you find deals like that all the time that are broken, and are most of the time they're easy repairs, and you can get to where you can spot them right away. So you can buy a pretty awesome gun for a relatively low amount and put just some time and effort into it and restore it back to fully operational and have yourself a great gun.
Sure. You're talking about the you haven't seen a whole lot of ARs. In my experience with them, there's not much that really goes wrong with them. If a person takes care of them, if a person cleans them and takes care of them, they're bulletproof. There's not much that can go wrong with them. But, like you was talking about, where you have these older guns that have issues that are simply fixed, but they don't know them. An AR doesn't have that many issues.
And you're probably 100% right in that. I never really considered that before, but when I first started, I thought, well, I better learn about ARs. And looking into them, they're very simple and they're a very effective and efficient tool. And it is really hard to mess one of those up. The only one that I've worked on, it wasn't even the gun's fault. It was the magazines. It was a guy was using Tapco magazines, and they just were not feeding properly. So you're probably 100% right on that, where it just comes to the ARs. They're just bulletproof. But I'm in the process of, I'm going to an auction Saturday to look for some guns. And if I don't get those guns bought, I'm going to build myself an AR. So that'll be a learning experience there that I'm looking forward to. I want to build a long-range precision AR-15.
Oh, all right. Well, hitting on that a little bit, what platform are you looking for? You're talking about long-range precision. I've got a 204.
I would say 308 if you're going long distance, wouldn't you?
Well, that depends. If you're going long range, you're looking at the 338 Lapua is a long range gun. You can build that in a AR platform. There's so much you can do with an AR platform. It's, you want to build a 50 Beowulf, you can build a 50 Beowulf, 350 Bushmaster, 204 Ruger. That's the cool thing about an AR platform, man. There is so much that you can do to an AR platform. And you talking about long range, are you looking at like 338 for the long range aspect, or what are you looking at when you're talking about building an AR platform with long range?
When I say long range, I'm looking for the longer barrel. I want to get as long a barrel as I possibly can. And then, of course, I'm going to put good optics on top of it, something with some magnification. As far as caliber go, I haven't really decided. 308 is my favorite caliber. I love it because you can do just about anything with it. So I may end up going with the AR-10 route and building a 308. 338 Lapua is fun, but I don't know if it's something I want to shoot all the time. And the cash, yeah. I really have thought about getting a smaller caliber like the 204. 223, it doesn't really do it for me.
224 Valkyrie.
That's the one, 224 Valkyrie. I want something with low recoil that shoots flat and can shoot a long distance. So when I'm really deciding to reach out there, I don't have to compensate as much because I'm terrible at that. So I want as flat a shooting rifle as I can get.
Absolutely. And talking about lower caliber, long range, I have went to a Bergara 6.5 Creedmoor. Dude, I'm telling you, that 6.5, people say, oh, it don't have the knockdown power. But you know what? It does have the knockdown power, and especially at long range. That is a long range gun, and you can do a lot with it. I haven't really done the whole reload aspect of it yet, just because it is that new. But if you get in the reload aspect of the 6.5, I think a person could really bring that gun on.
Yeah, absolutely. The 6.5 gets a lot of bad credit or bad publicity because it's so popular. You got the lovers and the haters. And I kind of fall in the middle. I just look at what it does and, go off of that. I had a Savage BA in 6.5 Creedmoor and did some hand loading for it. And, I blueprinted the action and everything like that on it and really got it to where it was just driving tacks. And at 100 yards, that thing was putting up about a 3/8 inch group with hand loads. And that's the only gun that I've ever taken out and shot consistently at 500 yards. Just absolutely, we were shooting at steel, but absolutely ringing that steel every time. If I missed with that gun and with that caliber, it was 100% on me because that caliber is just outstanding. I like it for shooting, just, going to the range. And I've deer hunted with it, and I've had nothing but good luck with it as far as shooting Midwest whitetails. I don't know if I'd want to take it and shoot an elk, but Midwest whitetails, something mule deer size, I don't think I would back down from that at all. And even elk, I mean, I've seen guys shoot the 270 and kill elk with it. So if you put it in the right spot, I'm pretty sure you're going to do well with anything 270 or up on an animal that size.
Sure. And, talking about a 6.5 on an elk, I have seen it. I have not seen it firsthand. I've talked to plenty of people that use the 6.5 platform in elk hunting, long range elk hunting, and have had great success. So, you saying you don't know if you'd use it. You haven't tried it, so it's new to you to try it on that aspect of hunting. But people I've talked to have had success with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that it's new to me. And the other aspect that you got to consider too is I'm not an elk hunter. So I have very, very little knowledge of elk and what it takes to kill them. I know when it comes to bows, I want as hard hitting and heavy an arrow as I can get. But when it comes to rifles, like I said, I remember, there was a famous hunter that he shot everything with a 270. He was back in the 40s or 50s and just shot everything with a 270. So I agree with you. If a 270 will take down an elk, 6.5 Creedmoor would absolutely do it if you put it in the right spot.
Yep. It all boils down to shot placement. A 270, a 22 will kill everything from a chipmunk to an elephant if you have the shot placement correct.
Absolutely. And that's where you get into some of these guns, I think, and also you see it in archery as well. The bigger broadhead allows you to make a bigger error. And I think it's the same way. The 338 Lapua, if I hit that animal in the gut, the recoil or the impact of that bullet is going to do so much more damage than the 6.5 Creedmoor hitting the same spot. So the bigger calibers just give you more room for error, and sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes that can be great. Sometimes, if you hit a deer with a 338 Lapua, a whitetail sized deer with a 338 Lapua in the shoulder, you're going to ruin a lot of meat. So it's kind of a balancing act of big enough and not big enough and getting them in the right spot. But like you said, you put it behind the shoulder, I don't care if you're shooting a 50 cal, if you put it in the right spot, you're going to get an effective kill and you're not going to ruin much meat. So you can go with 22 up to 50 cal and probably be effective either way.
Sure. Yep. And it always boils down to shot placement is key. Practice what you got and shoot what you practice.
Yeah. And that was the thing with archery is the longer you shot, the better you got. Because of muscle memory, developing muscle memory, and you don't have to think about where to shoot. You get to where you knew what angle that deer was at, you knew where to put it, and it just provided you with more of a chance of killing that animal effectively. So shot placement is absolutely everything.
Yeah, shot placement. That's what I'd read the other day. A lot of people talking about the 6.5 Creedmoor is the gun to go to these days, but they're not getting blood trails. And I believe that has a lot to do with shot placement, but it also has to do with, the pass-through and the smaller size of the bullet, in my opinion. I know Shane Simpson. He lives out in, I believe it's Iowa or Wisconsin area, but he has some tracking dogs, and he has tracked several, nice deer that's been shot with the 6.5 Creedmoor that they just couldn't find because there was no blood trails there. So,
oh yeah, absolutely, and that's the same with a 243. A 243, in my opinion, is one of the greatest rounds for a whitetail. Not sure how it does on anything beyond a whitetail. I know I've got a lot of friends that have shot elk and mule deer with the 243, but that's minuscule compared to what I know of with a whitetail, and that's one of the greatest rounds for a whitetail.
Yeah, talking about the 243, a few years ago we were on a hog hunt, and we were in Arkansas and had a big razorback that I'd shot with a bow, and I shot him at a weird angle, and it hit the plate, and instead of going into his vitals, it just skidded along that plate and came out of his front shoulder. So needless to say, he was really upset, and a buddy of mine came out and he said, "Hey, you better take this rifle in there because that hog's gonna get you." So he handed me a 243, and I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." He goes, "No, go in there and shoot him with this." So I took the gun, we went in there and shot the hog and absolutely dropped him in his tracks. I wasn't a believer in 243, but after that I was a believer pretty quick, and that hog weighed 250, something like that. So wasn't a small hog, and he was amped up and he was mad, but that 243 put him on the ground.
Sorry, you was cutting out there. We didn't get that last little bit. We lost Ike there from Ike's Outdoors. We just want to thank him and for his time and stuff this evening, and we're glad that his wife is on the mend and things are going well there.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, he can get back into doing some of the reviews and things later on and, add that to his new hobby list. So we appreciate you coming on tonight, sir, and keep in touch. So everybody, that'll do it for this evening. Thanks for tuning in to On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, on our Facebook page there, and be sure to check our Game Calls page out on Instagram. We still post a lot of our On the Limb stuff there on that page as well. So, we do have another guest coming up on Wednesday evening, Sean Lundy. He'll be with us. Used to be with Drury Outdoors. He was one of the fan favorites there for Drury Outdoors. So he'll be with us on Wednesday night. We'll be recording that, and it will air Friday morning at 6 a.m. So we've done some promotional things for that, and that's going to be a great time there talking to him and, just getting the history behind how he got started in with Drury Outdoors and where things are today. So Thanks for listening, everybody, and everybody have a great evening. This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Top Down Construction, a local construction company located in Hurricane, West Virginia. A veteran-owned and operated construction company ready to tackle any project. With over 25 years of experience in the industry, they offer a wealth of knowledge from design to completion. Contact them today at 304-415-2203 and let them make your dream a reality. You can also check them out on their Facebook page or call them today at 304-415-2203.